you find Ibans in East Malaysia, East Malaysia, because have you ever heard of headhunters? They were like this tribal thing. They would go out, and the tribe next to them, they would go chop off heads as a rite of passage, or things like that. That's where they are. When you hear headhunter, it's usually like an Iban. They have the same thing in the Philippines, but they have headhunters. Those are them. So like you could go, they're the native people, Ibans are, at least for East Malaysia. And you could go to the longhouses, which is just a gigantic long cabin. You know, and they have sectioned off rooms for their own individual houses, but they'd have one long section, community kind of section that they'd all get together. You can go there and you can see skulls that they would have hanging on the ceiling. They'd have like a basket full of them. You know, that was their culture. Back then they would have long swords. They'd have these thin wooden shields. They're very culture rich people, and they didn't have a lot of work. So they'd move out from deep in, you know, the country, in the jungle, to out more civilized, more developed places, and they would try and find work there. And there was, you know, there's more than just Ibans. There was Malays, there was Indonesians, there was Chinese, there were Indians, like Tamils, there were Sri Lankans, and there was even expats there. Miri was a big oil drilling place. There was lots of drills out in the coast, close to Miri. Miri is close to Brunei, which is its own little section, so there's just a lot of oil, a lot of money in there. Borneo is its own little island, and it's separated into two sections. One is actually part of Indonesia. Borneo was Indonesia, I believe, for a section, for quite a while. And, you know, I don't know who's going to correct me. Someone should correct me if I'm wrong, but it started out as Indonesia, but then part of it became East Malaysia. That's where the Ibans are from, is island of Borneo. There's a lot of things on the island of Borneo. A lot of Indonesians. There's just a lot there. It's really kind of hard to paint a picture of what's there. Ibans are more, their beliefs, they're not Islam. I know that. Some of them can be, some of them can convert. I don't know how you would classify their religion. They just are kind of there. They're just a native people. I don't know quite what they believe in. I didn't spend a whole lot of time with the Ibans. Malays, they are Islam. So they are quite different. They're you know, Islam is different than Christianity. Christianity is different than Buddhism. It's all different. Islam is, you know, the Malays in Malaysia aren't quite what you see, or not really at all what you see in the news here in the States. They're very peaceful people. They're very loving, very caring, very open. You know, they have their religion, they live it, just like we have our religion and we live it. They keep separate. You know, they're not forcing anything on anybody. And it's a very beautiful religion, actually. And it's quite close to Christianity. Iban, for lack of a better term, I would say it's kind of paganish. I don't know. I wouldn't take my word on that. It's just, they're different. They don't really know anything about Christianity. And so that's kind of what made it them a target, is just to, I'm not a target, that's kind of a bad word to use, just people of interest to spread the gospel to, because they've never heard it, you know, and they were very receptive. Just the sad part is they didn't get to stay permanently in the area we had found them, because most of the Ibans were just laborers, and they would move back. They would get their money, and then they would have to move back to their compound, their village.